The Truth Girls.
Hi everyone. There's a new mystery illness killing Cambodian kids. According to this article, there have been 64 cases and only 2 have survived so far. They are all children under the age of 7 and they have sudden fever and then they have neurological symptoms. Some of them even have seizures and respiratory problems as well. They come in, they say by the time they come in their lungs are destroyed and nobody knows what's causing this. And Dr. Beat Richner, who's been there in Cambodia dealing with this and who was interviewed in this article, says that he thinks that the cause could be, quote, "I think our idea is an enterovirus or an intoxication of a drug or a combination of both." An intoxication of a drug could be like maybe a vaccine. I mean, I don't mean to jump the gun here, but don't you find it's very strange that it's all little children? And this isn't the first time I heard this. Just this year, earlier this year, there was another mystery disease, the horrific nodding disease that turns children into zombies. I actually did a video on this. Children in these African refugee camps were just suddenly turning into zombies. Like they start nodding and they're kind of drowsy looking. Apparently they don't feel drowsy, but they look drowsy. And then they just kind of start, slumping over. They basically, their brain turns to mush. They can't think anymore. They can't do anything. They get violent. The parents end up having to tie them to something to keep them from hurting themselves. They pass out like that and fall into fires. And for some reason it's brought on by eating. The sleepiness. So then they don't want to eat, they suffer malnutrition. And it's very strange. That disease also, it affects only children. Could be some kind of parasite or some weird thing that adults are for some reason immune to. But it could also be that they're giving these kids vaccines, and especially the African kids, they were in refugee camps. Maybe it's also the GMO food. They test these, not just vaccines, but all kinds of pharmaceuticals on poor people who don't even know what they're getting into, and also with introducing GMOs into ecosystems worldwide, causing all kinds of havoc. Who knows whether that could maybe even cause a new disease. No one really knows what the effects of GMOs are and will be long term. Like, I'll give you one example. There's some crops that they made that have a pesticide built in, and the thing is that when you eat that crop, it also kills the good flora in your own digestive system, like probiotic bacteria, things like that. So it's like you're eating pesticides. You're killing your own flora. And when you kill your flora, it totally alters your immune system. So maybe, you feed kids some GMO something, it alters their body, and they're small enough that this could have a really drastic effect on them. Maybe that's why it's only affecting kids and not adults. You alter your flora and then you might become susceptible to some other invader, some other bacteria, virus, parasite, whatever. That's how your body works. If things are not in balance, then you become susceptible. And the nodding disease in Africa, in my other video I said it could have been caused by a vaccine because some vaccine adjuvants open the blood-brain barrier. So you give them a vaccine that opens their blood-brain barrier and then expose them to a parasite that doesn't usually go in the brain, and the next thing you know, what was this thing? It was called onchocerciasis. That's what they were saying they think it could be. But it doesn't usually do this. It doesn't usually go in the brain. But maybe if you give them that vaccine, open the blood-brain barrier, then you get onchocerciasis that eats your brain. And the worst part with these kind of things is that even if it is caused by a vaccine or a GMO, you'll never find out because it's just a total racket, a conspiracy. They cover their tracks all the time. They cover each other's butts. And if something really bad happens, they'll just cover it up. I mean, what? They're only, people in the third world. Who cares about them, right? Well, that's the way they think, these corporations. So they'll just cover their tracks and the world will never know the truth. But you know what? I know enough to be very suspicious, and I would stay away from the GMOs, vaccines, and pharmaceuticals. And when something like this happens, that's what I would suspect. Well, let me know what you think, and thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.